Bonjour from France and welcome to the second episode of my road to Lisbon. It's day 20 and in this episode I will take you with me over the French Alps to the Mediterranean Sea and finally to the entrance of the Pyrenees, which will be my next big chapter. Besides taking you with me through the highlights of the second part, I also want to talk a bit about what motivates me to go on a trip like this and also share a few insights of my journey so far. And in particular I want to show you where I stayed and how much I paid for the first 20 nights of my trip so far. Since you already know, I finished off the first episode in Lausanne. If you haven't seen it yet, go check it out, it's worth a look. I spent 2 spectacular weeks in the Alps and that was absolutely beautiful. So let's jump straight into episode number 2, the Mediterranean Sea. I decided not to go straight to the Mediterranean Sea, but to add 3 more days here in the French Alps, heading towards the south. And I want to climb a really isolated valley here in France. On the internet I found a little hut, or more a shelter, that should be close to a pass that I want to try to reach today. Probably it's not even rideable, so I'll have to carry the bike a lot. And then I'll see if I can stay the night there, if it's open, or if I'll have to use my tent. So I'll find it out.
Sometimes I'm asking myself, what is it that always makes me go on trips like this? What fascinates me so much about exploring the unknown and test out my limits day after day again? I discovered that it is 2 main reasons why I love it so much to be out in wild nature without any other human being around me. Firstly, it is that feeling of absolute freedom and independence. Heading into wild, unsettled valleys, not knowing if I will be able to cross over the pass or where I will get out on the other side, gives me this sparkling feeling of adventure in my stomach. Being the only human being out in the wild is such an intense and unique feeling that you can't find somewhere else. If you ever did something comparable, you might know what I'm talking about. Secondly, it's the simplicity out here. You don't have to worry about anything else but what to eat and where to sleep, and just enjoy the energy of nature to the fullest. On my trips, I don't follow given routes. I love it to explore my own individual path and take these unknown roads through unsettled mountains. For now, you can even translate that into my whole life. I don't follow the classic career path, but try to make my own way. In the end, it doesn't really matter how to put it into words. Fact is, it makes me happy, and that's reason enough for me to just do it.
The sun already set behind the horizon and I'm still on my way up. Nearly every day it's getting dark, but I somehow love it. It's getting quiet and peaceful and cold. Still have 400 high meters to go up. I would be very surprised if there would be someone, so I'll hopefully put my tent up, make a fire if possible, and then have a nice chill evening. Today is day 23 and this is gonna be a special day because today I'm finally leaving my beloved Alps. In the morning I'll try to ride over that beautiful ridge up there, and then in the afternoon I'm going all the way down to the valley to Grenoble and then finally leave the Alps and head towards the Mediterranean Sea towards Montpellier. So let's go! What an incredible last day here in the Alps. Amazing. The ridge was just probably the best I've ever ridden. So nice. And now comes the final descent. Sad, very sad, but no time to be sad because the next mountains, the Pyrenees, are awaiting not very long ahead of me. All right, let's go down. It's day 23 and I'm now here at the river Rhône, which will lead me all the way to the Mediterranean Sea. From here it's exactly 310 kilometers, and since you already know I'm not really into flat parts, I will use that time that I'm going down the river to explain you where I stayed my nights and how much I paid for my nights so far. 2 long days are waiting for me with 160 kilometers each. Yeah, let's do some chilled riding. So far I stayed in 5 different categories of accommodations, but first of all I have to mention that I have probably the smallest imaginable standards of where to sleep. But that also means that I'm not willing to spend a lot of money into places to stay, and therefore I'm always looking for the cheapest possible options. The first category I'd like to mention are mountain huts. Since I love it to spend the nights up high in the mountains, and especially be in the mountains in the evenings and the mornings, this is a very, very pleasant way to spend the nights for me. As a member of the Alpine Club, this is mostly around 12 euros the night, which is also a very cheap way to get around. I stayed in mountain huts twice, once in Austria and once in Italy. Due to the late season, most of the huts are already shut down by now. That's why I had to look for other opportunities to stay in. Since the clouds were hanging in the mountains in the first few days, I had to look for cheap options down in the valley, which is category number 2. I stayed in a nice hostel in Marl, South Tyrol. Greets to Sasha and the Finca hostel. I stayed on a nice beach hostel at Lago di Como, which was beautiful. And I stayed at a nice kind of hostel in Annecy in France. On top of that, you can sometimes find rooms for rent in private houses, which is normally pretty cheap. I stayed at a farm once for 25 euros and in a bungalow for 15 euros. Also, I had to take the cheapest hotel I could find for 38 euros here in France. That's okay sometimes as well. In Europe, there's places to stay every 5 kilometers. No challenge at all. So after day 8, I decided to spice it up a little bit. Try to travel low budget again. And that's why since day 8 I only had 2 more paid accommodations. In total I will end up spending 216 euros for the first 30 nights of my trip, which is a lot cheaper than the 800 euro rent that I used to pay for my apartment in Munich. The next 3 categories are the categories that are for free and save you some money on a long trip like this. I can't believe it, the weather is so good I even have to put sunscreen because it's so hot. It's like 23 degrees here. Wow, summer. Category number 3 of the places I stayed in, and the first one which was for free, is staying with friends. I'm fortunate to have a few friends along my route, and I was very happy to be hosted by Benny throughout my stay in Lausanne for 5 days. Thanks a lot again, bro, and hope to see you soon. That's always a really cool way to recover, staying with familiar people. Benny and I even had some kind of co-working space when I finished my movie, so that was a great time. 115 to Montpellier, let's go! just hit the 100-kilometer mark on my last day to the Mediterranean Sea. That means it's time for a break and also to reveal the category number 4 of the places I stayed in so far. Category number 4 is my most favorite one. It's wild camping. So far I did it 4 times, twice in Switzerland and twice here in France. For me, wild camping is such an intense and unique experience to put up your camp somewhere in the middle of nowhere where you would normally not stay the night and then wake up the next morning surrounded by pure nature. It's something that is very rare and unique, and I really love that. So I'm looking forward to do this quite more often now in the Pyrenees. Yeah, and that's also for free, obviously. Okay, I had a short break and now it's 70 kilometers left to the sea. Let's go! 30 kilometers to go, mainly on the road. I think I can do it. To finish it off, the 5th category I stayed in is like a special advice from an experienced bikepacker. It's a platform called Warm Showers. For those of you who don't know it, Warm Showers is basically like couch surfing, but particularly for bike travelers. And in my opinion, this is a very, very great way to get around and to meet new, local and like-minded people. If you want to go on a bike trip yourself, you should really check it out. I'll link it down in the description. I stayed with lovely people 3 times on this trip. Once in Italy with Emanuela and Peter. Thank you guys and greets. The most surprising stay was probably in Switzerland, where I stayed with Lorian. Lorian, greets to you. And also thank you to Celine, who hosted me in France. Alright, so these were the places where I normally stayed in. I hope I can do a lot more of wild camping and warm showers, the ways of traveling that I enjoy the most. And now let's go and finish off the last 30 kilometers to the Mediterranean Sea. It took me 24 days to reach my next huge milestone on my road to Lisbon, the Mediterranean Sea. I'm incredibly pleased how everything worked out so far. It has been an absolute dream and I couldn't have wished for more. The good news for me is that I'm not even halfway through. The next big chapter is already waiting for me. I will cross the Pyrenees from the Mediterranean Sea all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. And this is probably going to be the most adventurous part of my trip because I'm expecting the Pyrenees to be super wild. So subscribe to my channel to not miss out on episode number 3, and also follow me on Instagram to get daily updates about my journey here. This is it for episode number 2. I take some well-deserved days off here in Montpellier now, and with that being said, greets from the Mediterranean Sea.